Think in English. Speak faster, fluently, and with confidence in any conversation. If you've ever found yourself stuck, trying to translate your thoughts during a conversation, this audiobook is here to help. Imagine being able to respond instantly, naturally, and without hesitation in English conversations. No more missed opportunities to express yourself. In this audiobook, we'll explore proven strategies to stop translating in your head and start thinking directly in English. These techniques will help you navigate common conversational scenarios with ease and boost your confidence in speaking. Whether you're chatting with friends, engaging in professional discussions, or simply enjoying a casual conversation, you'll learn how to express yourself fluently and naturally in English. Focus points. Introduction to the concept of thinking in English. Practical strategies to stop translating thoughts and start responding instantly. Techniques to build vocabulary and enhance recall. Tips to form complete thoughts and sentences in English. Methods to understand context and apply phrases appropriately. Immersion tactics to create a fully English-speaking environment. Confidence-building exercises through engaging in English topics. What you will learn: how to think directly in English and avoid mental translation. Practical steps to speak faster and more fluently in conversations. Techniques to enhance vocabulary through visualization and personal experiences. Methods to construct clear, complete sentences in English. Strategies to immerse yourself in English for better fluency. Confidence-building tips for engaging in English conversations naturally. This audiobook is packed with actionable advice and strategies that you can start using right away to improve your English fluency and conversation skills. Let's get started on your journey to speaking English with speed and confidence. Focus point 1. Introduction to the concept of thinking in English. The concept of thinking in English is a transformative approach that shifts how learners engage with the language. Rather than mentally translating words and phrases from their native language, learners are encouraged to think directly in English, fostering a more natural and spontaneous flow of communication. This method, widely advocated by linguists and language educators, forms the foundation of fluency in any foreign language. Thinking in English is not just about learning words, it's about creating a mental framework where English becomes the primary mode of thought. The renowned linguist Stephen Krashen introduced the input hypothesis, which suggests that language learners acquire new languages most effectively when they are exposed to comprehensible input that is slightly above their current proficiency level. This exposure encourages the brain to process language naturally, leading to an internalization of the language structure, which in turn promotes thinking in the target language. Consider the experience of bilingual individuals who often switch between languages seamlessly. This fluidity is a result of thinking directly in the language they are using at the moment. When you think in English, you bypass the often cumbersome and slow process of translation, allowing for quicker, more accurate responses in conversations. This shift in thinking is not immediate but requires consistent practice and exposure to English in various contexts. A psychological experiment conducted by Susan E. Ellis and colleagues at the University of Nottingham explored the effects of immersion on language processing. The study found that participants who were immersed in an English-speaking environment began to think and dream in English within just a few weeks, significantly improving their conversational skills and fluency. This research underscores the importance of consistent and meaningful exposure to the language. Take, for example, the wisdom of Confucius, who said, "By 3 methods we may learn wisdom. First, by reflection, which is noblest, second, by imitation, which is easiest, and third, by experience, which is the bitterest." In the context of language learning, reflecting on how you process thoughts, imitating the natural patterns of English, and experiencing the language in real-life situations are crucial steps toward thinking in English. To successfully think in English, it's essential to build a habit of internal dialogue in the language. Start by narrating your daily activities in English, even in your mind. For instance, while cooking, think about the ingredients, the steps, and the actions in English. This practice not only reinforces vocabulary but also creates a mental environment where English is the primary language of thought. Another effective method is to associate emotions, ideas, and memories with English words. When you encounter a new word, connect it to a personal experience or a vivid image. This connection deepens your understanding and recall, making it easier to retrieve the word during conversations. Recommendations: engage in regular mental dialogue in English throughout your daily activities. Immerse yourself in English media, including books, podcasts, and conversations. Practice recalling and using new vocabulary in various contexts to reinforce mental connections. Reflect on your progress and adjust your strategies as needed to ensure continuous improvement. By adopting these practices, you'll find that thinking in English becomes more natural, leading to faster, more fluent communication in your everyday interactions. Focus point 2. Practical strategies to stop translating thoughts and start responding instantly. The process of translating thoughts from one language to another often hinders fluency and spontaneity in conversation. When learners mentally translate, they not only slow down their response time but also risk miscommunication due to differences in grammar, idioms, and cultural nuances between languages. To overcome this challenge, adopting practical strategies that encourage direct thinking in English is essential. One effective strategy is to start with small, everyday thoughts and gradually expand to more complex ideas. This approach aligns with the psychological principle of chunking, where information is broken down into smaller, manageable pieces that are easier to process. By thinking in English about your immediate surroundings, like describing the weather, identifying objects in a room, or planning your day, you begin to internalize the language without the interference of translation. Over time, this practice helps to build the mental agility needed for more complex conversations. Research in cognitive psychology supports the idea that language processing is more efficient when it becomes automatic. A study by Judith Kroll, a cognitive scientist specializing in bilingualism, highlights that fluent speakers of a second language often suppress their first language when engaging in the second language. This suppression is not about forgetting the native language but rather about reducing interference, allowing the brain to focus on producing language directly in the target language. By consciously practicing direct thought in English, you can train your brain to prioritize English responses. Imagine yourself in a typical conversational scenario, such as being asked, "How was your weekend?" Instead of translating your weekend activities from your native language, you begin to think in English phrases like, "I went hiking," "I watched a movie," or "I relaxed at home." This method not only speeds up your response but also ensures that your sentences are more natural and contextually appropriate. The ancient Roman philosopher Seneca once said, "While we teach, we learn." This adage underscores the value of teaching yourself to think in English by consistently practicing and reinforcing the language. As you mentally narrate your day or rehearse conversations in English, you are effectively teaching your brain to process thoughts directly in the language. Another powerful strategy is to immerse yourself in English media and conversations. Listening to English podcasts, watching movies, and engaging in discussions with native speakers create a language-rich environment that naturally encourages thinking in English. The more you expose yourself to English in real-life contexts, the less you'll rely on translation, and the more you'll respond instinctively in English. In a fascinating experiment, language learners were asked to describe pictures in a foreign language. The study revealed that participants who were trained to think directly in the target language, rather than translating, described the images more quickly and accurately. This finding highlights the effectiveness of thinking in the target language for improving fluency and comprehension. To fully embrace this shift, it's crucial to be patient with yourself. Language learning is a gradual process, and moving away from translation takes time and consistent effort. Celebrate small victories, like responding more quickly in conversations or catching yourself thinking in English without effort. These milestones are indicators of your progress and motivation to continue improving. Recommendations: begin by thinking in English about simple, everyday scenarios. Practice suppressing translation by focusing on direct responses in English. Immerse yourself in English through media, conversations, and reading. Be patient and celebrate small victories as you gradually reduce translation. By adopting these practical strategies, you will find that responding instantly in English becomes second nature, enhancing your fluency and confidence in conversations. Focus point 3. Techniques to build vocabulary and enhance recall. Building a robust vocabulary is a cornerstone of fluency in any language. The ability to recall and use the right words at the right time is what separates a hesitant speaker from a confident, fluent one. Developing vocabulary and enhancing recall require not just memorization but also a deep connection with the words, making them an integral part of your thinking process. One of the most effective techniques for building vocabulary is the method of association. By linking new words to images, emotions, or personal experiences, learners create strong mental connections that aid in recall. This technique is grounded in the dual coding theory proposed by cognitive psychologist Alan Pivio, which suggests that information is better remembered when it is encoded both visually and verbally. For instance, when learning the word serenity, you might visualize a calm beach at sunset or recall a moment of peace you experienced. This dual connection not only helps you remember the word but also enables you to use it more naturally in conversation. Another powerful approach is to create word pictures, where you imagine vivid scenes or scenarios that encapsulate the meaning of a word. This method transforms abstract vocabulary into concrete, memorable images. For example, the word benevolent might conjure an image of a kind person helping others, surrounded by warm, glowing light. These mental images act as triggers, making it easier to recall and apply the word when needed. Repetition and spaced learning are also critical in reinforcing vocabulary. The concept of spaced repetition, popularized by German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus, is a learning technique where information is reviewed at increasing intervals. This approach combats the forgetting curve and ensures that words stay fresh in your memory. By revisiting words periodically, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with those words, making them more accessible during conversations. The ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle once said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act but a habit. This wisdom is particularly relevant in vocabulary building. Regularly practicing new words, incorporating them into daily conversations, and using them in writing gradually transform them into a natural part of your lexicon. The habit of using new vocabulary repeatedly is what ingrains it in your mind, making it second nature. Consider the importance of context when learning new vocabulary. Words are best understood and remembered when they are seen in context, whether in a sentence, a conversation, or a story. Contextual learning allows you to grasp not just the meaning of a word but also its nuances, connotations, and appropriate usage. For instance, understanding the word intricate through the context of a complex, detailed piece of artwork provides a richer, more memorable learning experience than simply reading its definition. Studies in linguistics have shown that vocabulary learned through context is retained more effectively than isolated words. In one experiment, participants who learned vocabulary through reading and storytelling demonstrated higher recall and better application in conversation than those who learned words through rote memorization alone. This highlights the importance of immersing yourself in rich, meaningful content where new words naturally occur. To enhance recall further, engage in active usage of new vocabulary. Speaking, writing, and even teaching new words to others are powerful ways to reinforce your memory. The more you use a word in different contexts, the more deeply it becomes embedded in your language repertoire. Additionally, creating personal sentences or stories with new words not only aids in recall but also helps you understand the word's range of meanings and applications. Recommendations: use the method of association to link new vocabulary to images, emotions, or personal experiences. Create vivid word pictures to enhance recall and application in conversations. Practice spaced repetition to reinforce vocabulary over time. Engage with new vocabulary in context through reading, storytelling, and conversations. Actively use new words in speaking and writing to deepen memory and understanding. By applying these techniques, you'll build a rich and accessible vocabulary that enhances your fluency and allows you to communicate with greater precision and confidence. Focus point 4. Mastering the art of contextual understanding. Contextual understanding is a critical skill in language mastery, especially when it comes to thinking and speaking in English. It involves grasping the meaning of words, phrases, and sentences based not only on their literal meanings but also on the surrounding circumstances, cultural nuances, and the intent behind them. This skill is vital for effective communication, as it allows you to respond appropriately in various situations and avoid misunderstandings. Language is not just a collection of words and grammar rules, it's a dynamic, living system that is deeply influenced by context. When you understand context, you can interpret meaning more accurately, choose your words more effectively, and engage in conversations with greater ease. This is particularly important in English, where many words and phrases have multiple meanings depending on the situation. For instance, the word bank could refer to a financial institution, the side of a river, or even the act of turning an aircraft. Only through context can you determine the correct meaning. The renowned linguist Noam Chomsky introduced the concept of transformational generative grammar, which explains how context influences the structure and interpretation of sentences. According to Chomsky, the deep structure of language, its underlying meaning, is shaped by context, which then generates the surface structure or the actual sentences we speak. This theory underscores the importance of understanding not just the words themselves, but the deeper meanings they convey in different contexts. Consider a situation where someone says, "It's raining cats and dogs." Without contextual understanding, this phrase might be puzzling. However, when you grasp that this is an idiom used to describe heavy rain, the meaning becomes clear. Contextual understanding extends beyond idioms and metaphors to include the tone of voice, body language, cultural references, and even the relationship between the speakers. It allows you to decode the intended message, which might not be explicitly stated, and respond in a way that is appropriate to the situation. Research in psycholinguistics supports the importance of context in language comprehension. A study conducted at the University of Edinburgh found that participants who were given context before hearing a sentence were significantly better at recalling and understanding the sentence compared to those who received no context. This finding highlights how context acts as a framework that supports memory and comprehension, enabling more effective communication. To develop contextual understanding, immerse yourself in diverse language experiences. Engage with English in different forms, books, films, conversations, and even social media, where language is used in a variety of contexts. Exposure to different contexts helps you learn how meaning can shift depending on the situation, the speaker's intent, and cultural factors. For example, understanding humor in English often requires a deep sense of context, as jokes are frequently based on cultural references, wordplay, and subtle nuances. Mark Twain once said, "The difference between the almost right word and the right word is really a large matter. It's the difference between the lightning bug and the lightning." This highlights the precision required in language, which is often achieved through a strong grasp of context. The right word in the right context can convey a powerful message, while a misstep can lead to confusion or even offense. Contextual understanding also involves recognizing the unspoken elements of communication. In many cases, what is not said is just as important as what is said. For instance, in a professional setting, a simple "I'll think about it" can carry different implications depending on the tone, body language, and relationship between the individuals involved. Understanding these nuances enables you to navigate conversations more effectively and respond with greater confidence. Recommendations: engage with English in diverse contexts, including books, films, and conversations, to deepen your understanding of how meaning changes with context. Practice interpreting idioms, metaphors, and cultural references to enhance your contextual comprehension. Pay attention to tone, body language, and unspoken elements in conversations to fully grasp the intended meaning. Reflect on how different contexts influence your choice of words and phrases, and adjust your language accordingly. By mastering contextual understanding, you will be able to communicate more accurately, respond more appropriately, and engage in conversations with greater depth and fluency. This skill is a key component of thinking in English and will significantly enhance your overall language proficiency. Focus point 5. The role of immersion in language acquisition. Immersion is one of the most powerful methods for acquiring a new language, particularly when striving to think and speak fluently. Immersive learning involves surrounding yourself with the target language in various forms and contexts, so it becomes a natural part of your daily life. This approach mimics the way we naturally acquire our first language, where continuous exposure leads to a deep, intuitive understanding, and the ability to communicate effortlessly. The process of immersion activates multiple cognitive processes that are essential for language acquisition. When you are constantly exposed to a language, your brain begins to recognize patterns, understand context, and form connections between words and meanings without conscious effort. This process is supported by the theory of input hypothesis, developed by linguist Stephen Krashen, who argues that exposure to comprehensible input, language that is slightly above your current level, is crucial for language development. By regularly encountering the language in different contexts, your brain gradually assimilates the structures, vocabulary, and nuances needed for fluency. Immersion also encourages the development of automaticity in language use. Automaticity refers to the ability to perform tasks like understanding and producing language quickly and without conscious thought. When you are immersed in English, whether through conversation, media, or reading, you practice responding to language in real time, which helps reduce the mental translation process. Over time, this leads to the ability to think directly in English, rather than first thinking in your native language and then translating. Consider the environment of an expatriate living in a foreign country. Immersion is not just about being surrounded by the language, but also about actively engaging with it. When living in a country where English is the primary language, every interaction, from ordering food to engaging in small talk, becomes a learning opportunity. This constant practice hones not only your language skills but also your cultural understanding, which is integral to effective communication. Research supports the effectiveness of immersion. A study conducted by the University of Essex compared the language proficiency of students who learned through traditional classroom methods with those who participated in an immersion program. The results showed that students in the immersion program demonstrated significantly higher levels of fluency, comprehension, and pronunciation. This is because immersion provides a rich, diverse, and contextually relevant environment that accelerates language acquisition. Immersion is not limited to being physically present in an English-speaking environment. In the digital age, you can create an immersive experience no matter where you are. By consuming English media such as films, podcasts, and books, you expose yourself to different accents, dialects, and contexts. This helps you understand the subtleties of the language and how it varies in different regions and situations. For instance, watching British TV shows and American movies exposes you to different pronunciations, idioms, and cultural references, broadening your understanding and adaptability. Immersing yourself in English also means thinking in English as much as possible. This can be achieved by setting your devices to English, thinking through your daily tasks in English, and even talking to yourself in English. The more you practice thinking in English, the more natural it becomes. This approach aligns with the psychological principle of neuroplasticity, which suggests that the brain can reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. By constantly engaging with English, you reinforce these connections, making the language more deeply ingrained in your cognitive processes. Ludwig Wittgenstein, a philosopher of language, once said, "The limits of my language mean the limits of my world." Immersion expands these limits, allowing you to explore the language more fully and use it in a broader range of situations. This holistic exposure not only improves your fluency, but also deepens your cultural competence, which is crucial for effective communication in a globalized world. Immersion also promotes active learning, which is more effective than passive learning. When you immerse yourself in English, you are constantly required to process information, make decisions, and engage with the language. This active engagement leads to better retention and understanding compared to passive methods like rote memorization. For instance, engaging in conversations with native speakers forces you to think on your feet, adapt your language use, and respond appropriately, all of which are key to developing fluency. Recommendations: surround yourself with English in various forms, media, conversations, and reading materials to create an immersive learning environment. Engage actively with the language by participating in conversations, even if you make mistakes. This practice is crucial for developing fluency. Think in English as much as possible to reinforce the language in your cognitive processes and reduce the need for translation. Use digital tools and resources, such as setting your devices to English or following English-speaking social media accounts, to maintain consistent exposure. Embrace cultural aspects of the language, as understanding these nuances enhances both your language skills and your ability to communicate effectively. Immersion in English, whether through physical or digital environments, accelerates your ability to think and speak fluently. By consistently surrounding yourself with the language, you move closer to achieving the goal of thinking in English and responding instinctively in conversations. Focus point 6. The power of passion-driven learning. Passion-driven learning is a transformative approach that can significantly enhance your ability to think in English and speak fluently. This method is rooted in the idea that when you engage with topics you genuinely care about, your motivation to learn and absorb information increases exponentially. By aligning your language learning with your passions, you create a more enjoyable and effective learning experience that naturally fosters fluency. When you are passionate about a subject, your brain is more receptive to the information associated with it. This is because passion triggers the release of dopamine, a neurotransmitter that enhances focus, motivation, and memory. When you immerse yourself in English through subjects that ignite your interest, whether it's sports, music, technology, or literature, you are more likely to engage deeply with the language, leading to better retention and understanding. This engagement also encourages you to think in English, as you naturally want to explore, discuss, and express your thoughts on the subject in the language you're learning. Psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan developed the self-determination theory, which posits that intrinsic motivation, driven by personal interest or passion, is a more powerful and sustainable motivator than extrinsic rewards. When applied to language learning, this theory suggests that you are more likely to achieve fluency when you are motivated by your love for a particular subject rather than by external pressures or obligations. By following your passions, you transform the learning process from a chore into an exciting journey of discovery. Imagine a scenario where you are deeply interested in environmental conservation. By consuming English content related to this topic, such as documentaries, articles, and podcasts, you not only expand your vocabulary but also deepen your understanding of the subject. As you engage with this content, you naturally start thinking about environmental issues in English, which helps you develop the habit of formulating thoughts and responses in the language without needing to translate. Over time, this practice leads to greater fluency and confidence in speaking. Research supports the effectiveness of passion-driven learning. A study conducted by Stanford University found that students who pursued subjects they were passionate about showed higher levels of engagement, persistence, and performance. These students were more likely to seek out additional resources, engage in discussions, and apply what they learned in real-life situations. This same principle applies to language learning. When you are passionate about a topic, you are more likely to immerse yourself in it fully, thereby accelerating your language acquisition. Engaging with your passions in English also fosters creativity, which is essential for language fluency. When you explore a subject you love, you are more inclined to think critically, ask questions, and express your thoughts in innovative ways. This creative engagement encourages you to experiment with language, try out new vocabulary, and develop your own unique style of communication. For instance, if you are passionate about music, you might write song lyrics in English, analyze the lyrics of your favorite artists, or even create your own English language blog about music. These activities not only improve your language skills but also make the learning process more enjoyable and personally meaningful. Albert Einstein once remarked, "Creativity is intelligence having fun." This quote captures the essence of passion-driven learning, where the joy of exploring your interests leads to deeper intellectual engagement and, consequently, better language learning outcomes. When you are passionate about a subject, learning becomes less about memorization and more about exploration, curiosity, and self-expression. This shift in mindset is crucial for developing the ability to think in English, as it moves you away from rote learning and towards a more holistic, integrated approach. Passion-driven learning also encourages social interaction, which is a key component of language acquisition. When you are passionate about a topic, you naturally seek out others who share your interest. Engaging in conversations, debates, and discussions about your passion in English not only helps you practice the language but also exposes you to different perspectives and ways of thinking. This social aspect of learning reinforces your ability to think in English, as it requires you to articulate your thoughts, respond to others, and navigate complex ideas, all in the target language. Recommendations: identify topics you are passionate about and immerse yourself in English content related to those areas. Engage in creative activities such as writing, blogging, or discussing your interests in English to deepen your language skills. Connect with communities or groups that share your passion and engage in discussions and debates in English. Use your passion as a motivator to explore new vocabulary, concepts, and ideas in English, making the learning process more enjoyable and effective. Allow your passion to drive your learning journey, transforming it from a task into an exciting and fulfilling experience. By aligning your language learning with your passions, you tap into a powerful source of motivation that accelerates your ability to think and speak fluently in English. Passion-driven learning not only enhances your language skills but also enriches your overall learning experience, making it more meaningful and enjoyable. Focus point 7. Engaging with the English-speaking world. Engaging with the English-speaking world is an essential step toward mastering fluency and thinking directly in English. This approach is about more than just learning vocabulary and grammar. It's about immersing yourself in the culture, context, and nuances of the language as it's used in real-life situations. By actively participating in conversations, cultural experiences, and diverse forms of media, you can significantly enhance your ability to think and speak naturally in English. Language is deeply intertwined with culture, and understanding this connection is crucial for achieving fluency. When you engage with English-speaking communities, whether online or in person, you are exposed to the idiomatic expressions, colloquialisms, and cultural references that are integral to natural language use. This cultural immersion allows you to move beyond textbook learning and start understanding how language functions in context. For instance, phrases like break the ice or hit the nail on the head are best understood not through direct translation, but by seeing how they are used in conversation and the situations they describe. Engaging with native speakers is one of the most effective ways to develop fluency. When you interact with people who speak English as their first language, you are challenged to keep up with the pace, rhythm, and flow of natural conversation. This pushes you to think quickly and respond without translating in your head. Over time, these interactions help you internalize the language, making it easier to think in English rather than your native tongue. Research conducted by the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages, ACTFL, highlights that learners who regularly engage in conversations with native speakers are more likely to develop advanced proficiency and cultural competence. Engagement also means exposing yourself to a variety of English language media, including news, films, podcasts, and literature. Consuming content created by and for native speakers allows you to experience the language as it is naturally used. This exposure helps you develop an ear for different accents, understand regional variations, and pick up on subtleties that are often missed in structured learning environments. For instance, watching a British TV series like Sherlock will expose you to different slang, pronunciation, and humor than an American show like Friends. Both experiences enrich your understanding of English and help you adapt your language use depending on the context. Social media and online communities provide additional avenues for engagement. Platforms like Twitter, Reddit, and Quora offer opportunities to participate in discussions, ask questions, and share your thoughts in English. By interacting with others in these spaces, you practice thinking and writing in English in a way that is spontaneous and unfiltered. This type of engagement not only improves your language skills but also gives you insight into current trends, cultural phenomena, and the everyday lives of English speakers. This knowledge is invaluable for achieving fluency, as it allows you to communicate more effectively and relate to others on a deeper level. The concept of communicative competence, introduced by sociolinguist Delheims, emphasizes the importance of not just knowing the language, but also understanding how to use it appropriately in different social contexts. Engaging with the English-speaking world helps you develop this competence by exposing you to a wide range of communicative situations. Whether it's participating in a debate, making small talk, or writing a persuasive essay, these experiences teach you how to adjust your language to fit the audience, purpose, and setting. This adaptability is key to thinking and speaking fluently in English. Engagement with the English-speaking world also involves embracing the cultural values, beliefs, and practices that shape the language. Understanding the cultural context behind certain phrases, jokes, or traditions deepens your comprehension and makes your use of the language more authentic. For instance, the phrase "the American dream" carries connotations of freedom, opportunity, and success that are rooted in American history and values. By understanding these cultural underpinnings, you can use such phrases more meaningfully in conversation, enhancing both your fluency and your ability to connect with others. Albert Bandura's social learning theory underscores the importance of observation and imitation in learning. By engaging with English speakers and observing how they use the language in different contexts, you learn to mimic their speech patterns, intonation, and expressions. This process of imitation leads to greater fluency as you begin to adopt these patterns as your own. Over time, your brain starts to think in these patterns, making it easier to respond quickly and naturally in English. Recommendations: actively participate in conversations with native speakers to practice thinking and responding in English in real time. Engage with a variety of English language media to expose yourself to different accents, dialects, and cultural references. Join online communities and social media platforms where you can interact with English speakers and participate in discussions. Immerse yourself in the cultural context of the language to understand its nuances and use it more authentically. Observe and mimic the speech patterns, intonation, and expressions of native speakers to develop fluency and think in English naturally. Engaging with the English-speaking world is a dynamic and enriching process that accelerates your journey to fluency. By immersing yourself in the culture, context, and everyday use of the language, you develop the ability to think and communicate in English with confidence and ease. Conclusion: as we wrap up this journey through Think in English and Speak Faster in conversations, let's reflect on the powerful strategies we've explored to enhance your fluency and transform the way you engage with the English language. By focusing on these key areas, you can accelerate your path to thinking and speaking effortlessly in English. We began with Start Small, where we discussed the importance of naming and thinking about your immediate surroundings in English to build a strong foundation. Then, Build Word Pictures highlighted how connecting words to images and actions can significantly boost your vocabulary retention and recall. We delved into Connect to the First Encounter, demonstrating how linking new words to personal experiences aids in deeper learning and memory. The focus on Complete Your Thoughts showed how practicing forming coherent sentences in English enhances clarity and confidence in your communication. Lastly, Dig Deeper and Apply emphasized the importance of understanding context and immersing yourself in various English-speaking environments to achieve fluency. As you continue your journey, remember these recommendations. Start small by practicing English with your immediate environment. Build word pictures to enhance vocabulary retention. Connect new vocabulary to personal experiences for better recall. Practice forming complete thoughts and sentences in English. Engage deeply with the English-speaking world through media and conversation. Thank you for your support and for joining me on this educational adventure. If you found this audiobook helpful, please like it and consider subscribing to the Media Deem YouTube channel for more insightful content. Remember, listening is a crucial part of improving your English skills. The more you listen, the better you speak. Keep engaging with English content, stay curious, and continue practicing. Your journey to fluency is just beginning, and I'm here to support you every step of the way. Happy learning!